welcome to a brand new episode here on 90. Nope. And cut and start intro again. Take 2 and action. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode here on Carmland's Farm. So today we're going to get these rocks off this field, or stones, or whatever. Although I did hear a very good, or I didn't hear it, but I read a very good kind of detail about how you can tell the difference. If it's a stone, you can pick it up, and if it's a rock, you can't. And I think that was fairly spot on, to be fair. And seeing as I guess we're supposed to not be able to pick it up, then these are rocks. But we will just get the tractor moving slightly quicker than this. We don't need to be going quite so slow. So yeah, we'll get these done, and then we've got to get this grass cut. And then once we get this grass cut, we will then get on with some fertilising. It's not going to be a hugely hectic day today, so this field needs drilling. So we'll get on with that, and then I've kind of got a little bit of yet again a dilemma of, do I buy more fields or do I start building factories? You know, sort of factories equal slightly more money, but we can't grow very much to really profit from them, whereas more fields will equal obviously more crop, but then we won't have the money to buy the factories to process the crops we're currently already growing. So you know, it's a bit of a quandary really, because it's kind of I'm not really sure which way to go. Do we get the more fields, turn them over? Because that's all we're going to be doing now. We're literally going to be, we'll cut the grass still, because again it's a free resource that I don't have to, so it doesn't cost me anything to grow. But we will be silaging that grass, and then we will be putting it into store, and only once the store is full will we then be selling the silage again. So you know, it's not a case of now we're just going to be continually silaging you know, the grass that we buy and mow to sell, because as I said, I want the farm to be self-sufficient, and the end goal for this particular save is £10 million in the bank, and hopefully a lot of factories and a lot of completely lost my train of thought. I do apologise. It's kind of 9 and 1 million things were going through my head then, and it was kind of like, what are you talking about? And I was sort of going, oh, I'm not really sure, to be fair. Well, you're going to have to leave it there because you're going to sound silly in a minute. So I'll leave it there, because the one thing I don't want to do is sound silly, even though I know I do. But yeah, so that's the plan for today. We'll get this done, and then we could have let Courseplay do this, but I thought I'd step in, you know, be a hero, do the job. We'd have a chat, and then we'd get on with it. And then we'll get on with, like I say, this needs drilling, but we're going to have to power it before we drill it. So we'll let Courseplay get on with the power harrowing, and then we will and then we'll come in after we've gone and fertilise the other field and get that sort of done as well. I still haven't as well either finished piling the sugar beet up, so that's a job that needs to sort of, it's a sort of one of those jobs that you do when you've got no other jobs that need doing. It's kind of one of those sort of, we used to call it on the farm a spare job. It used to be one of our spare jobs. So in the workshop, so the workshop was attached to like a canteen, and not every day, but some days we would have a firm come in, and if we were working in and around the farm, if we were working a long way from the farm, there was no point, because we were never going to be driving back to the farm to get food. But if we were working quite close to the farm, we're going to need to do 2 breeds around there. That's not wide enough for me to turn in. Yeah, so if we were working close to the farm, we would have sometimes, like usually in the winter, because the farm wasn't all that far from our factories, we had potato factories and carrots, onions, and that sort of, for bagging and processing and everything else. And what us lads on the arable team used to do was we would go in there and we would, sort of help out. But in in terms of the actual factory work, when we were there, the the foreign guests that would be working in there would be like, "You gonna help?" And it's like, "Yeah, we are helping. We're watching." We used to drive the forklifts, and we used to. And then if we used to, because the factory had capacity and capability of bulk processing, so you could get like a sort of 80. Our veg carts used to be 18 ton, and we could back them in, line them up, and just tip them, and the factory was more than capable of processing that amount of crop at once. It was a very. I've never seen factories like them, and to think that a farm that when I was growing up was went bust or nearly bust several times, and then they in the early 1990s they bought in Adrian, which is the farm manager, and now it's probably the second biggest farm in the area. Lincolnshire Farm Produce would be the biggest, because they are over tens of thousands of acres. The farm that I've worked on, I've been saying in all my videos, they're about 8,000 acres, and then sort of another 3 or 4,000 acres hired. Apparently now they are getting towards the 15,000 acre mark. So it's becoming a big business now. I mean, it was big when I was there. I mean, like I say, it always amazed me. I guess this is why they buy brand new stuff every 5 years, and we get the latest technology and we get the latest equipment. But 4 of us on the arable team are able to get everything, well, weather dependent, but we were able to get everything completed on the farm that needed to be done. We were never, unless weather had affected, but otherwise we were never really behind. But yes, we had, you know, Challengers and the John Deere's equivalents, and we had 9-meter Verdastats and 9-meter Simbas, and and so we were well equipped to do the work. And obviously we used to work very long hours as well, but the pay. I mean, when I left the first farm, well, because for those of you that don't fully know the kind of the reason, because so the first farm I worked for was a family farm, and my family had worked on that farm through the generations, through my great 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 granddad, all the way through to my granddad, all the way through to my nan, who was still working on the farm at the time, and then my uncle Dick and Uncle George, and all of these people, and eventually through when I hired my tractor and plough from John Doubledays. Anyone in the local area, if you're considering buying a new tractor, go and see them. Great team, great price, and great service. Because we used them a lot on both farms. We used them out. We had John Deere crawlers on the farm, or RTs as they were called back then. they're called RXs now, obviously, but all of our wheel tractors were John Deere, and the same on the first farm. All of the wheel tractors on that farm were, or the main working tractors were all John Deere. We did have a couple of cases and about 4 David Browns, but the main working tractors were John Deere. But yeah, so I hired a tractor and a plough, got a job, go for 2 weeks ploughing on that farm, and from that experience, they offered me a job the following year. They said to me that in a year's time, one of their workers was retiring, which I knew. So it wasn't just a case of just go to any farm. It was like I literally targeted 3 farms, because one farm I kind of considered they probably would want out, because it was just him and his brother that were running it, and it was quite a big farm for just 2 of them. And you'd be sort of in the local pub, or you'd be in the village, and they'd be going, oh, didn't get all of it drilled this year, didn't get all of it, blah blah blah. You'd constantly hear this, oh, we really should consider taking someone on. Well, because living back in a village in sort of the 80s and the 90s, everyone knew everyone. There was no, do you know what I mean? Now, I live in the same village that I've lived in all my life, and I know probably, I don't know, 6 people. Everybody else, I've no idea who they are, but back in the 80s, everyone knew everyone, and the stories of you leave your door unlocked and all of that sort of business, was true. And that's what we did. I mean, I can remember very many times that my mum used to load all of us boys on a bike, and she'd have a bike cart that was made for her, because my Uncle Dick could literally make anything out of anything. He was just one of those people, and he made a trailer for all of us kids on the back of the bike, and I used to sit on a seat mounted on a seat mounted on the handlebars up front, and I used to sit on there. And my mum used to have a really old-fashioned Mary Poppins type bike that was an awful green colour, and she used to load us kids on and bike the sort of half a mile or whatever to my nan's, and that's what and as I say, everyone knew everyone, and we'd leave the doors unlocked while we were gone, and it was, I think it was the the peak time of life where you could trust everyone, well, near enough everyone, but certainly out in the little villages, we were very wary of strangers that were sort of giving the impression of more than just a visit. You would, and neighbours quickly would be, sort of, and there was no phones or nothing, so you had to go round, did you see this van? What van? Well, CCTV hasn't been invented yet, so I haven't got a picture, but it was a van with this registration. That's how life was, and you looked out for each other. But yeah, so I targeted the first farm because I thought, oh, they need help. But they wouldn't take me. They wouldn't let me go because, as I say, that as I said the other week when I was telling the time that I hired my tractor, that they did sort of weren't complying to any of the health and safety laws, and they just wouldn't get away with having me in case I got injured or whatever. And in farming, that's pretty likely. So they wouldn't do it. But the second farm that I went to was the farm that all of my family had worked on, sort of through the years, through the ages, and I knew they had a worker retiring at the end of the following summer. I was working at Tesco's at the time, so excuse me 1 second, I've still got a sore throat. I'm just gonna have a drink. And yeah, so I sort of targeted that. Anyway, I got the job, and I'd been there about 4, maybe 5 years, and I'm out ploughing one day in the autumn, and this red truck comes and sits on the end of the field, and this bloke in this red truck, but I had no idea who it was. It wasn't unusual for people to, sit at the end of the fields and to get out and stand in the fields and, film or take pictures or whatever. So I wasn't overly sort of bothered that this truck had been there for quite a while. And then, sort of you'd get to the end that he was sat on and he'd be on his phone or, and you sort of think, I don't know, because at the time a lot of tractor thefts were happening. And you sort of then start to think, well, are they, looking at my tractor and sort of, am I about to get robbed? Because it had happened a few times in the village where I live in St James, where tractor drivers had been basically, robbed at, sort of gun or knife point for the tractors and then beat up and left in the field. And, I'm kind of sitting there thinking, if they do want my tractor, they can have it. Like, it's not my tractor, it's insured, blah blah blah, but anyway, he gets out and he comes into the field and he stops me and he says, can I have a ride? And I said, no offense, I don't know who you are. And he said, oh, it's okay. He said, I'm Adrian, I'm farm manager at this farm, and I want to chat to you about maybe coming to work for us. And I remember at the time saying, oh, I'm not interested. I just want to work here for the rest of my farming career, sort of thing. And he was like, well, he goes, you haven't heard what I've got to say yet. And I was like, yeah, not really, still not really interested, to be fair. I said, like, I want to work here because that was the farm that I'd sort of wanted to work on. And then he said, well, at least let me ride around. He said, because it's unusual to be able to admire someone ploughing, straight and everything, and you haven't got GPS or anything. And I said, no, it's and so he said, like, it'd be nice just to sort of have a chat, and I don't know, you get a feeling for someone, and he didn't present as a threat or as anything like that. So I was like, yeah, hop in then. And we were sort of walking around. We were driving around and up and down the field, and I've lost my tractors. Oh, there's one. Oh no, that's the one I just had. Where's the others gone? So yeah, we were sort of driving up and down, and he started talking, and he started saying, like, we're looking for a ploughman that's going to plough, virtually all the time. Well, first off, he said there they are. We're looking for a tractor driver, and I said, okay. I said, I've already got a job, blah blah blah. I said, and anyway, I said, to be fair, you wouldn't really be interested in me. And he goes, I am, because that's why I'm here. And I said, yeah, but I've got a really serious heart condition. I said, I can't do what normal lads my age can do. And that's when he went, oh, no problem, we just want you to plough all the time, literally 10, 11 months of the year ploughing, and I was like, okay, and then it's kind of the thoughts start cutting. Now I've lost my power, that'll be in the shed where I just was. Oh dear. Well, at least you get entertained while you're watching me anyway. So anyway, I sort of still sort of turned them down, and then he said, well, here's my card, if you change your mind. He said, the job's open till next spring. He said, you've got time to think about it. So I was like, okay. And then he sort of kind of said to me, he said, oh, by the way, he said, if it's not a rude question, how much do you get paid? So I said, I get paid at the time roughly £350 a week. So he said, all right. He said, and that's just sort of, he said, what, 7 till 4? And I said, well, 7 till 4 is my sort of normal day. I said, but I usually work till like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I said, because I just love tractor driving. I said, I just love it, and so therefore I work sort of later hours, and the farm that I worked on, if I got sort of all of their work done, or all the work or my work done on their farm, they'd send me to neighbours' farms, and I'd go sort of help out there or whatever. So it was always all right. But anyway, so he said, well, I can assure you, he said, I'm not going to tell you just now how much you'd get. He said, but you get a hell of a lot more than that for those hours working for us. So anyway, he left. He took my number. I took sort of his number, and off he went. And I was sort of thinking about it, and I thought, more money, and then it was like, my dad was full of sayings and full of, and because I went home and I told him, and he said, just remember this. He said, and I say this to you all the time. He said, but just remember it. He said, because it's true. The grass is not always greener. He said, like, just think about that. And anyway, about a week later, on the farm, we'd had quite a bit of heavy rain, and I got to work this Thursday morning, and the boss said to me, he said, it's too wet to work on the land today. So I said, yeah. He said, but he said, I've got he said, so I want you to go down, because we had 2 farms. He said, and I want you to go down to my end. And I said, right. He said, and down there, I'll meet you down there at 9 o'clock. So I said, right. I said, what do you want me to do down there in the meantime? I'll just hoover the grain store out, and then I'll meet you down there at 9 o'clock. So I was like, okay, fair enough. So, because we had winter barley in that grain store, and it had all been sold, and the grain store needed, obviously, sort of hoovering and cleaning and tidying, and it's sort of one of those jobs, nothing else to do. It's that job sort of thing. And anyway, we get we get to the point where he comes down there, and he says to me, he says, right, I want you to go up to my house. I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, that's right. He rang me, and oh, hang on, I've got no fertilizer in it. And he said to me, like, come down to my house. I'll meet you near the paddocks. So I was like, okay, fair enough. And obviously, met him there and what have you. And he said to me, he said, right, he said, we've got a water leak to the cow trough. So the cow trough water pipes, which were only a hose pipe, it wasn't properly plumbed in, it was bodged in like everything on that farm. He said it's leaking. So I said, right. He said, because the cow troughs and the sheep troughs are not being filled. What the crikey's happening there? Oh, I got you. I didn't quite leave enough gap. I wondered what was happening. I thought a poltergeist had entered the farm. Anyway, yeah, so he said, we've got a water leak. So I said, okay. So he said, what I want you to do is, I want you to dig a trench along here, and he chalked it out, or sort of sprayed it, spray lined it out. He said, dig a trench along here, because I'm not sure along here where the leak is. So dig all the way along, he said, and the pipe's down about sort of 3-4 feet. So I said, right. He said, and he said, like, I've got you a pickaxe and a spade and a few other things. He said, I realise it's concrete. He said, but I have started it and broken the first bit of concrete and the rubble and everything, so that you won't have such a hard job, like, getting it started. So I went, okay. So anyway, he goes off, and I start digging more, because as I've said before, you all know, and I don't need to go on about it, but I've got a heart condition, and physical jobs I find very difficult, especially when it requires using sort of my upper chest and whatever muscles. And there's me trying to pickaxe this concrete apart and do whatever, and sort of like get it done. Well, by the time he'd come back at lunchtime, he can't, he sort of got out of the truck, and he had a look, and he went, is that all you've done? So I said to him, I said, I beg your pardon? He said, is that all you've done in all the time I've been away? So I said to him, I said, yeah, that's all I've done. So he goes, well, I ain't very impressed. He said, I'll be honest with you. He said, what, have you just been sat on your backside all morning, like, just doing nothing and just wasting my time? So I said to him, I said, no, I said, I've been trying to dig this. I said, but it's not that easy. I said, it's concrete. I said, and rubble and all of those things. I said, and I said, I'm not being funny. I said, but I've got the heart condition. I said, this is very hard work for me. I said, like, this is not me messing about. This is me. I said, I'm struggling. I said, you can see I'm out of breath. Look how much I'm sweating. I said, I've got pains in my chest. I said, I said, and I think, really, you're bang out of order coming down here and saying that. And he said, who the hell do you think you're talking to? I'm your boss. And I said, yeah. I said, and any normal boss, I said, any normal person would have got a mini excavator to done this, and we could have done it in a bloody hour. I said, but not you. No, what do? You give the crippled worker on your farm a pickaxe and say, go through concrete, you prick. I said, don't come down here and have a go at me. I said, otherwise I'll have a go back. And anyway, we sort of fell out, and he told me to get lost and go back up to the other farm, and then it was like basically all the rubbish jobs up there that I had to do, filthy jobs, horrible jobs. And anyway, the next day he came to work, and or we both went to work on the Friday. And I got there, and he goes, "No," he goes, "you can go home." He goes, "I ain't got nothing for anyone that wastes my time." He said, "So you can have the day off." He said, "Have the weekend off. You needn't bother coming in." And that was the point when I sort of decided, oh, actually, maybe I should go and speak to to Adrian and the other farm. And that was sort of really the main reason why I left and went, because I didn't appreciate it. Like, as I say, it was. I did my absolute bloody best that day. And I genuinely mean that I did my best that day, but to be spoken to like that, he was bang out of order. And yes, I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. I understand that, but it really did annoy me. Yeah, I ended up working, as I say, on the other farm. I stayed the winter on the first farm that I was on, and then in the spring, in March, I went to the farm, and then from March till September I worked on one of their other farms, which was a smaller farm. It was still one of their farms, but it was not in the sort of big corporation of farms, and I worked on that small farm for a little while, which was all right, really, to be fair. I mean, there was sort of never really much to do, but if the big farm sort of needed any extra help, obviously I'd go over there, and I would go over to that farm, and yeah, it was all right, it was sort of good, and yeah, that's sort of how I kind of got started. But you'd go into the workshop. Okay, why are we not driving? Oh, I know why we're not driving. There's going to be a loud noise, ladies and gentlemen. That might not have been too bad. No, that wasn't too bad. Yeah, so that's sort of how we got. So, but anyway, so down on that farm, this is the original story I was telling you. What I've just told you has nothing to do with this story. Yeah, so on the farm where I was working, you'd have the workshop, and in the winter time when you were up at that farm, you would they would have a firm come in, and they would sort of do hot meals or whatever, and so if you were at the factories that were not far from that farm, if you were at the factories at lunchtime, you'd go back to the canteen that was on the what we used to call base farm. So it was sort of where we would all meet up in the mornings. Well, on the workshop, in the workshop, even when you get there in the morning, so you'd go and sit in the canteen, and we'd all have a good chat for about half hour, and a laugh, and talk about football, or whatever was going on in the world. And then at 7:30, because we started at 7, but at 7:30, then you'd sort of go through into the workshop, and you'd have your own jobs board. So you'd have your own board up, and then on your job board you would have obviously what they want you to do. Sometimes it was like your job board would be set up and say like, today I want you to, and then you'd have like Tuesday, and then sometimes if say that they got a job that they thought would last till next week, so you'd have Tuesday till Monday. So you'd have till Monday to get all of those jobs on that list done. But then they used to have a no job board, and that's what it was called. It was called a no job board. So if you didn't have a job, if you'd completed all your jobs in a day, and you didn't sort of have really much else to do, you would go and look on the no job board, and you would then, like, you know, pile in that sugar beet or whatever, and that's what you would do. So yeah, that was you know, you would then go off and do that sort of job. But anyway, I've probably bored you all to tears again. So if there is anyone still watching, I'm going to switch over to a little bit of time lapse, and we'll meet again at the end in the bar, call it a draw, and have a pint together. How does that sound? I don't drink, but we're going to have a pint of water, I guess. But yeah, so I'll see you in a little while. Bye for now. And I'm back. So we've got quite a bit done today. The reason in the end we didn't do any drilling was because when I set up the power I about halfway I was getting ready to go drilling. We sort of did the fertilising, and I just wanted to do that manure. I wanted to get that pig barn emptied, and I was getting ready to go, and then I realised that I didn't set the power on a wide enough headland, so unfortunately I couldn't sort of couldn't go drilling, because what would happen is that my headland tram lines would go into too far into the field, and the power would have to come past them to get to the point where I'd told it to lift up. So couldn't go drilling, but that's okay. We'll do it in tomorrow's episode. That's no problem. But we have also, as I say, got other things done as well. So it's not been a wasted day. It's just been kind of a little unfortunate that I messed up a little bit. Just note that on. There we go. So as you saw, we got the factory installed for the wall. I don't know why this trailer. I don't know if it's this trailer. I don't know what it is, but it's lagging so badly. It's unreal. I don't know why, like I say, but yeah. So we've got the manure thing, manure production put in. We've got the manure empty out the cows and the pigs. We've just got the liquid manure to do, but I'm not too, sort of rushed for that. We sorted the seed bags out. So the plan with the fertilizer production is obviously that we're going to use our manure to produce our own fertilizer, because we do use a lot of fertilizer on the ground on the farm. So that's going to help us to produce our own. And the plan is that I'm going to get the conveyor that will take in grain and turn it into seed. So that field down there that we're currently power harrowing is going to become barley, and then that's going to go obviously into our grain store, and then when we need seeds we are going to use the barley to use to convert into seed. So that will then make us self-sufficient in seeds and fertilizer. Oh, it escaped through the wall. Never mind. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to let the Courseplay finish that, and just finish that job off. I'm going to put the last 2 wall pallets on my trailer, and then we're going to call that a wrap. So as always, at the end of my video, if you haven't done already, please like, comment and subscribe. It really does help my channel. Thanks to everyone that's helped me hit my July target of 400 subscribers. At the time of recording this, I'm on 423, so that is absolutely incredible and amazing. And all that's left for me to say is I've really enjoyed having your company on this episode, and I really look forward to you joining me next time. Bye for now.